bride whispered this in the priest's ear, and then he called off the wedding right then. Emily Johnson took a deep breath as the bells of St. Mary's Church echoed through the sunny morning in Aspen. Her mother, Catherine, adjusted the veil one last time, but something weighed on the bride's heart like a stone she could no longer carry. It was when Father Thomas asked if there were any impediments to the marriage that Emily approached him and whispered in his ear, "Father, you have a brother you believe died 30 years ago, don't you? He's here in the church. He's my real father." The priest's face aged 10 years in a fraction of a second. His hands trembled as he held the prayer book. "What?" he whispered back, staring into the young woman's determined eyes. "Your brother Nathan didn't die in that accident. He's alive and is my biological father. He's sitting in the third row, pretending to be just a guest." Father Thomas felt the world spin. For 3 decades he had carried the guilt over the argument he'd had with Nathan the last time they saw each other, a fight over money that ended with his younger brother storming out on a rainy night. And 2 days later his car was found overturned in the river, with no body. "This can't be possible," he murmured, but his eyes were already scanning the church. "It is possible, and I only found out 3 days ago." Beside her, Ryan Parker, the groom, sensed something was terribly wrong. Emily had stopped speaking the ceremony's words, and the priest looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Emily, what's going on?" he asked softly. But Father Thomas had already stepped away from the altar, walking unsteadily toward the congregation. His glasses fogged up when he spotted the man in the third row. Grey hair, thinner than he remembered, but those eyes, they were unmistakably Nathan's. "Ladies and gentlemen," the priest said in a shaky voice, returning to the microphone, "I regret to inform you that this ceremony cannot continue." A murmur of confusion swept through the packed church. Catherine, the bride's mother, stood up in alarm. "Thomas, what's happening?" "Catherine, you always knew, didn't you?" The priest stared at her with tear-filled eyes. The man in the third row slowly rose to his feet. He was a gentleman in his 60s, dressed simply but neatly, whom everyone had assumed was just a family acquaintance. Emily looked at him for the first time, knowing the truth. All her life, she had deeply loved Michael Johnson, the man who had raised her as his own, given her his name, and never missed a school play or graduation. But now she knew he wasn't her biological father. "Emily," Nathan said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "No," shouted Michael, appearing from the side of the church where he'd been helping with arrangements. "You have no right to show up now." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The church descended into chaos. Ryan held Emily's arm, trying to understand what was happening to the woman he was about to marry. Catherine had collapsed onto the pew, covering her face with her hands. Guests whispered among themselves, some standing to get a better look. 30 years, Father Thomas shouted, walking toward Nathan. 30 years believing you were dead. 30 years blaming myself for our last fight. I had no choice, Thomas, Nathan replied, tears in his eyes. They would have killed all of you if I hadn't disappeared. Who would have killed us? What are you talking about? Emily watched it all as if trapped in a bad dream. 3 days earlier, she had been finalizing wedding details when she found an old box in her grandmother Margaret's attic. Inside were yellowed letters that changed everything she knew about her life. The first letter was from Nathan to Catherine, dated just a few months before she married Michael. My love, our daughter was born as beautiful as you. I can't watch her grow up, but I know Michael will be the father she deserves. Forgive me for having to leave, but it's the only way to protect you. The money I owe is being demanded with threats. If I stay, everyone will suffer. The second letter was from Michael to Catherine. I agree to marry you and raise Emily as my own. It doesn't matter that she isn't my blood. I already love her as if she were. Nathan was my best friend, and I know he'd do the same for me. And the third letter, the most painful of all, was from Nathan, written just 5 years ago. Catherine, I come home every day just to see you from afar. I work as a gardener in neighborhood houses to stay close. Emily is growing up strong and smart. Michael is a better father than I could ever be, but I still miss you." "You were here the whole time?" Emily asked, looking at Nathan with a mix of anger and pain. I mowed the neighbors' lawns. Sometimes you played in the yard and I could see you. How dare you?" Michael was red with rage. "How dare you spy on us all these years? I just wanted to make sure she was okay. Okay, she was great, because I took care of her. I took her to the doctor when she was sick. I comforted her when she cried. I paid for her college." Ryan finally exploded. "Can someone explain what's going on? Emily, why didn't you tell me this before?" Emily looked at her fiancé, seeing the confusion and anger in his eyes. Ryan came from a traditional New York City family where scandals were not tolerated. His mother, Mrs. Wilson, was already watching everything with disapproval from the front row. "I only found out 3 days ago, Ryan. I swear I didn't know anything." 3 days ago? And you didn't think I should know before we got married? What do you mean, should know? Does this change anything between us?" "Change? Emily, you lied to me." "I didn't lie. I didn't know." At that moment, Margaret, Emily's grandmother, stood up, leaning on her cane. At 85, she had kept that secret for decades, but now she saw there was no point in hiding it anymore. "Stop this!" she shouted with a strength that surprised everyone. "All of you. Emily, my dear, come here." Emily approached her grandmother, who hugged her tightly. "Grandma, why didn't you tell me the truth?" "Because I wanted to protect you, my sweet. Back then, things were different. A man who left his family because of debts was frowned upon, and Michael loved you from day one. But Nathan is my father." "No, darling," Margaret said, looking straight at Nathan. "A father is the one who raises you, loves you, is there for you. Nathan gave you life, but Michael gave you love." Nathan lowered his head, knowing the old woman was right. "I know that, Mrs. Margaret. I never meant to take Michael's place. I just wanted her to know I existed." "And now she does," Michael said, stepping forward. "So now, what do you want?" "Nothing," Nathan answered honestly. "I just wanted to see her happy on her wedding day." Ryan shook his head, still processing everything. "This is insane. Emily, how are we going to explain this to my family? To our friends?" "Explain what, Ryan? That I have a family who loved me enough to keep painful secrets, that you have a father who pretended to be dead, and another who... I don't even know what this is." Emily felt her heart break. During their 2 years together, Ryan had always been loving and attentive, but now she saw a side of him she didn't recognize. "Michael is my father," she said firmly, "and he always will be. Nathan is the one who gave me life. And I'm the man trying to understand why my fiancé hid this from me. I didn't hide it. I found out 3 days ago and I was in shock." 3 days! You had 3 days to process this and tell me." "I was trying to understand it first." Father Thomas, who had remained silent watching the argument, finally spoke. "Emily, do you want to get married today?" I don't know anymore. And you, Ryan?" Ryan looked at Emily, then at the two confused families, then at his mother, who wore a disapproving expression. "I need time to think." "Time?" Emily felt the tears coming. "Ryan, you said you loved me." "And I do, but this is so complicated." "Complicated how? The fact that I found out something about my family. The fact that you hid it from me. For the last time, I didn't hide it. I didn't know." Emily's shout echoed through St. Mary's Church, silencing everyone. She had never yelled at Ryan before, never lost her composure like this. Catherine finally stood up, wiping her tears. "Enough," she said, stepping toward the altar. "Enough shouting, enough accusations. Emily, do you want to know the truth? The whole truth?" "Mum, Nathan, come here." Nathan approached hesitantly. Michael crossed his arms, but also stepped forward. "Do you want to know what happened 30 years ago?" Catherine looked at everyone. "Nathan owed money to dangerous people, a lot of money. They threatened to kill our family if he didn't pay." "What kind of people?" asked Father Thomas. "Loan sharks. Nathan had borrowed money to start a business, but the business failed. The more he owed, the more they demanded. Why didn't he ask the family for help? Because he was proud, Catherine answered, and because the threats were real. They sent him a photo of baby Emily saying they'd know where to find us. Emily felt her blood run cold. They threatened me when I was a baby. Not directly, said Nathan. But they said there was no place in America where you'd be safe if I didn't pay. So you faked your own death. I crashed the car into the river on purpose but got out before it sank. I stayed hidden until they stopped looking for me. And after? Then I came back, but from a distance. I changed my name, my appearance, took simple jobs, always close enough to protect you if needed. Michael shook his head. And I never knew any of this. Because I asked Catherine not to tell you, Nathan admitted. You were a good enough man to marry a pregnant woman and raise a daughter who wasn't yours. I didn't want you to carry this burden too. Burden? Nathan, Emily was never a burden. She was the best thing that ever happened to me. I know that. And that's why I'm grateful to you. Emily looked at the two men, who each in their own way had loved her deeply. Then she looked at Ryan, who still wore a judgmental expression. Ryan, she said softly, do you still want to marry me? Ryan hesitated. He looked at his mother, who shook her head. He looked at the family friends who whispered among themselves. He looked at Emily, beautiful in her wedding dress, but now wrapped in a drama he couldn't process. Emily, this is too much. My family won't accept this. Your family or you? Both. Emily felt her heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. Here was the man she'd dreamed of building a life with, abandoning her at the first real obstacle. Then it's fine, she said, removing her engagement ring. If you can't accept my family, then you don't truly accept me. Emily, don't be dramatic. Dramatic? Ryan, you're leaving me at the altar because I found out I have a biological father. It's not just that. It's the lie, the secret, all this mess. What lie? What secret? I didn't know anything. Father Thomas stepped between them. Perhaps it's best we cancel the ceremony for today. All of you need to talk calmly. No, said Emily. We're not canceling. We'll decide this now. She turned to Ryan. Do you want to marry me knowing my family has secrets and complications? Emily, it's just yes or no, Ryan. He glanced again at his mother, who was still shaking her head. No, I can't. Emily nodded, trying to stay composed. Then that's that. Father Thomas, cancel the ceremony. Emily, no, shouted Catherine. You can work this out. No, Mom. If he doesn't want me with my problems, then he doesn't truly want me. Ryan was already walking toward the exit, followed by his family and some friends. Emily watched the man she loved leave without looking back. Sweetheart, said Michael, stepping closer. I'm so sorry this happened on your wedding day. It's not your fault, Dad. Dad? Emily hugged him tightly. Of course you're my dad. Nathan may have given me life, but you gave me love. That will never change. Michael cried as he held the daughter he had raised as his own flesh and blood. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, Nathan watched the embrace from a distance, knowing that was his place, observing a family he had helped build but would never truly be part of. Nathan, said Father Thomas, approaching, 30 years. 30 years, brother. Why did you never reach out to me? I'm your brother. Because you had your life, your calling, and because I was ashamed. Ashamed of what? Of failing, of putting my family in danger, of having to fake my own death to protect them. Father Thomas hugged his brother for the first time in 3 decades. You didn't fail. You sacrificed your own life to protect the people you loved. But I lost everything in the process. You didn't lose. Emily is alive, strong, smart. Catherine built a good life. Michael was a wonderful father. You didn't lose anything. You gave everything. Emily watched the two brothers embrace and felt a mix of emotions. Anger for all the lost years, sadness for Nathan's sacrifice, gratitude for Michael's love, and deep pain over Ryan's rejection. What now? She asked the gathered family. Now you talk, said Margaret. No pressure, no judgment. Emily, you don't have to choose between Michael and Nathan. You can have both in your life. I can? Of course you can, said Michael. Nathan, do you want to be part of her life? More than anything in the world, but only if Emily wants it. Emily looked at the man who had fathered her, seeing in him traces of herself she had never understood. The green eyes, the way he tilted his head when thinking, the way he gestured when speaking. I want to know you, she said, but slowly, very slowly. I understand. And I need you to understand one thing. Michael is my father. He always will be. You're something else. I don't know what yet, but it's important. Nathan nodded, tears in his eyes. It's more than I deserve. It's not about deserving, said Emily. It's about family. The guests were still in the church, waiting to see what would happen. Emily stepped up to the microphone. Everyone, thank you for coming to my wedding. As you saw, it's been cancelled. But today I discovered something far more important. Family isn't just blood, it's choice. It's love. It's sacrifice. She looked at Michael, Nathan, Catherine, and Father Thomas. Today I gained a biological father and confirmed that the father of my heart will never change. I'm sorry the wedding turned into chaos, but sometimes life surprises us this way. Some guests applauded, others left awkwardly, but the family stayed. After the church emptied, they sat in the front pews to talk. Catherine held Michael's hand, who held Emily's hand, who looked at Nathan, trying to understand the feelings she had for him. Nathan, she said, tell me about your life, the last 30 years. It wasn't a life, Emily. It was just survival. Tell me anyway. Nathan took a deep breath. After I faked my death, I hid for a year in a small town in rural Kentucky, worked on a farm, slept in a windowless room. Every day I thought of you all. When did you come back? After 2 years. I couldn't stand being away any longer. I came back very different, thin, bearded, dark hair. No one recognized me. And where did you live? In a cheap boarding house on the other side of town. Took jobs as a gardener, a laborer, anything. I always tried to find work near your house. Emily felt her heart tighten. Did you watch me grow up? I saw you take your first steps in the backyard. I saw when you fell off your bike and Michael ran to help you. I saw when you cried on your first day of school. Why didn't you come closer? Because you were happy. Michael loved you as if you were his own. Catherine had built a new family. I would have just been a complication. But you were my father. No, Emily. I was just the man who gave you life. Michael was your real father. Michael cleared his throat. Nathan, you want to know something? All these years, sometimes I had the feeling someone was nearby. A few times when I was playing with Emily in the yard, I felt like we were being watched. Did you know? I didn't know, but I felt it. And you know what? It didn't bother me. Because if it was you, I'd be happy knowing you loved her enough to stay away. Nathan cried, Thank you, Michael, for everything. Don't thank me, you gave me the greatest gift of my life. Emily looked at the two men and finally understood what had happened. It wasn't abandonment, it was love. It wasn't cowardice, it was sacrifice. It wasn't selfishness, it was generosity. Mom, she said, turning to Catherine, how did you keep this secret for so long? It was hard, sweetheart. Many nights I cried thinking of Nathan. So many times I wanted to tell Michael the whole truth. Why didn't you? Because he was happy being your father, and you were happy having him as your father. Why stir things up? But did you still love Nathan? Catherine looked at Michael, who nodded, giving her permission to speak the truth. Yes, she said softly. I always did. But I also learned to love Michael, in a different way, but truly. And you, Michael, how do you feel knowing that? I always knew Catherine loved Nathan. I didn't marry her expecting her to forget her first love. I married because I wanted to take care of both of you. You don't feel betrayed? Betrayed by what? Catherine was a wonderful wife, a devoted mother. The heart has room for more than one love, Emily. I love you, and I'd love other children if we'd had them. Emily began to understand the complexity of adult feelings in a way she'd never imagined. And now? How do we move forward? Slowly, said Margaret. One day at a time. Nathan can start being part of the family for real. Not as a husband or primary father, but as, I don't know, a special uncle. A special uncle who's actually my biological father. Emily laughed, still trying to process it all. Life is complicated, my dear. Father Thomas, who had stayed quiet during the conversation, finally spoke. And me? Where do I fit in this story? You're my brother-in-law, said Michael, and Emily's great uncle. You've always been family. But I didn't know. You didn't, but you always treated Emily with special kindness. Remember when she had her first communion and you threw a party just for her? Emily remembered. Father Thomas had always been very affectionate with her, more so than with the other children in the parish. Father, did you ever feel something? A special connection with me? I did, yes. I always thought you reminded me of someone, but I could never figure out who. Now I know. You reminded me of Nathan when he was young. It's strange to think my family was always connected, and I never knew. It's not strange, it's beautiful, said Catherine. Even without knowing the truth, love found a way to keep everyone together. They sat in silence for a few minutes, processing everything that had happened. Emily was still in her wedding dress, but no longer felt like a bride. She felt like a woman who had discovered something important about herself and what truly mattered in life. Can I ask something? She said. Of course, everyone replied. Do you think Ryan was right? That I should have told him as soon as I found out? No, said Michael immediately. 3 days isn't enough time to process a revelation like that. But maybe if you had told him, he wouldn't have reacted so badly at the church, Catherine pondered. Mum, if he reacted badly at the church, imagine if I'd told him at home. He would have pressured me not to invite Nathan. That's true. Besides, added Mrs. Margaret, if a man leaves you because of your family, then he's not the right man for you. But I loved him, Grandma. I know, dear. But love that doesn't accept who you truly are isn't complete love. Emily knew her grandmother was right, but it still hurt. She had dreamed of that wedding for months, planned every detail, imagined the life she'd have with Ryan. You know what? She said, removing her veil and tossing her hair back. I think it's better this way. Why? Because if Ryan couldn't handle my family's problems, how would he handle the ones that would come up in our marriage? That's a good question, agreed Father Thomas. And besides, today I gained something far more valuable than a husband. What? The certainty that I have a family who truly loves each other, who makes sacrifices for one another, who keeps painful secrets to protect those they love. Nathan looked at Emily with pride. You've grown very wise. I'm not wise, I'm just trying to understand what happened. And you're understanding it very well. Emily stood and reached out her hand to Nathan. Will you walk me home? I want you to see my room, my things. I want you to see how I've lived all these years. Nathan glanced at Michael, asking for permission. Of course, said Michael. She's your daughter too. Thank you. They left the church together. Emily still in her wedding dress, Nathan in his simple guest clothes, Michael and Catherine holding hands, Father Thomas and Mrs. Margaret close behind. Outside, a few neighbors watched the group curiously. Aspen was a small town where everyone knew everyone, and the story of the cancelled wedding was already spreading. Emily, said Catherine, do you want to change clothes? No. Today is special. I'll keep wearing my wedding dress to show that some things in life are more important than a wedding. As they walked home, Nathan looked around with the eyes of someone seeing it for the first time, and yet someone who already knew every corner. Nathan, said Emily, show me the places where you worked. Are you sure? I am. He pointed to a few houses. At the Blue House, I mowed the lawn for 2 years. From the kitchen window, I could see you having breakfast on Sundays. Emily felt a tightness in her chest. And there. At that yellow house, I planted an entire garden. The owner always talked about the Johnson family, how close and happy you were. What else did you know about our life? I knew you were a good student. I knew Michael took you to the movies every Saturday. You knew Catherine made chocolate cake when you were sad. How did you know that? Neighbor talk, observation, a father's intuition. When they arrived at the house where Emily grew up, Nathan stopped on the sidewalk. "How many times have you passed by here?" she asked. "Every day, Emily. Every day for 30 years. Every day?" "It was my way to work. I arranged my schedule to pass by when you were leaving for school or coming back. Did you see me leave for my college entrance exam?" "I did. I was more nervous than you." "Did you see when I brought Ryan home for the first time?" Nathan hesitated. "I did." "And what did you think of him?" "I thought he didn't deserve you." "Why?" "Because he didn't look at you the way Michael looked at Catherine. He didn't have that spark in his eyes of someone who'd found the love of their life." Emily laughed. "And what does that spark look like?" "Like how Michael still looks at you today." They entered the house and Emily took Nathan to see her room. On the walls were graduation photos, trips, family moments. Nathan studied each one as if it were a treasure. "This was at my 15th birthday," Emily explained, pointing to a photo with Michael and Catherine. "I was hiding behind the backyard tree. I saw the whole party." "Really? You looked beautiful in your pink dress. You danced the waltz with Michael and I cried." "Why did you cry?" "Because it should have been me dancing with you." Emily felt tears in her eyes. "Nathan, do you want to know something? When I was dancing with Michael, I had this strange feeling, like someone was watching me with so much love." "They were. Was it you?" "It was me, my daughter. It was always me." They sat on Emily's bed and talked for hours. Nathan told her about the jobs he'd had, the places he'd lived, the nights he'd cried from missing her. Emily shared about school, her dreams, her fears, the moments she felt something was missing in her life. "You know," she said, "sometimes I'd look at Michael and Catherine and feel like there was something unspoken between them, some secret." And there was. But it was a secret of love, not lies. "Exactly." Downstairs, Michael, Catherine, and Father Thomas talked in the living room. Mrs. Wilson had gone to rest, saying the day had been too exciting for an 85-year-old lady. "How do you feel, Michael?" asked Father Thomas. "Relieved," he answered honestly. "Relieved? All these years, sometimes I wondered if I was doing the right thing, if Emily shouldn't have known her biological father, if Nathan didn't deserve a chance. And now? Now I see everything happened at the right time. Emily grew up secure in my love. Nathan had time to mature, and we're all ready for this new family arrangement." "And you, Catherine?" asked the priest. "I'm happy," she said, tears in her eyes. "For 30 years I carried the weight of keeping a secret. Now everyone knows the truth and we're still united." "Are you afraid of anything?" "I'm afraid Emily might resent me for not telling her sooner." "I think she understands your reasons." Just then, Emily and Nathan came downstairs. Emily had changed out of her wedding dress into simpler clothes, but kept her wedding hairstyle. "How was the talk?" asked Catherine. "Eye-opening," Emily replied. "Mum, I understand why you kept the secret, and I don't blame you for it." "Are you sure?" "I am. You did what you thought was best to protect me." "And you, Nathan?" asked Michael. "How do you feel after talking with her?" "Grateful," he said simply. "Grateful she became the wonderful woman she is. Grateful you were the father I couldn't be. Grateful Catherine gave me this chance." "What chance will we give him now?" asked Emily. "The chance to be part of the family," said Michael. "Not as my replacement, but as, I don't know, a special member." "How would that work in practice?" "He could come for Sunday dinners," suggested Catherine. "He could join birthdays, holiday celebrations. And I can help with some things," added Nathan. "House maintenance, the garden, anything you need." "You don't have to work for us, Nathan," said Michael. "You're family now." "But I want to contribute somehow." "Then contribute with your presence," said Emily. "I want to really know you, your stories, your dreams, your fears." "My dreams are simple now," said Nathan. "To call you my daughter without hiding, to give advice when you need it, to be there for the important moments in your life." "Important moments like weddings?" asked Emily with a sad smile. "Oh, Emily," said Father Thomas, "you don't need to worry about that. There are plenty of good men in the world. Ryan wasn't the right one for you." "How do you know?" Because the right man will love your complicated family as much as he loves you. What if I never find anyone? Then you'll live a full life with the family you already have, said Mrs. Margaret, who had come downstairs for a glass of water. Grandma, shouldn't you be resting? How can I rest with all this chatter down here? Grumbled the elderly lady. Emily, can I give you some advice? Of course. Don't marry because of social pressure. Don't marry because it's the right age. Only marry someone who accepts all of you, flaws, strengths, and complicated family included. But what if that someone never comes? Then you'll be a happy, single woman, fulfilled in your career, surrounded by people who love you. That's not a bad fate. Emily laughed. You're right. Of course I am. I didn't make it to 85 without learning a thing or two about life. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now back to the story. The phone rang, interrupting the conversation. It was one of Emily's bridesmaids, Jennifer, calling to check on her. Hi, Jennifer, answered Emily. Emily, what happened? Everyone's saying the wedding's cancelled. It is cancelled. Why? Did you two fight? Emily looked at her family gathered in the living room and smiled. We didn't fight. We just realized we have different priorities. Are you okay? I'm great. Better than I thought I'd be. Can I do anything? Yes. Tell the other girls the wedding reception is still on. We're turning it into a family celebration. Really? Really? I already paid for the catering, the band, the venue. Let's celebrate life. Celebrate what exactly? Celebrate that I discovered my family is even more special than I imagined. After Emily hung up, everyone stared at her in surprise. You really want to go through with the party? Asked Catherine. I do. Why waste a good party? Let's invite the neighbors, family friends, anyone who wants to come. What about Ryan and his family? Ryan made his choice. The party is for those who want to celebrate with me. What kind of party will it be? A reunion party, said Emily, looking at Nathan. A forgiveness party, she added, glancing at Catherine. A gratitude party, she said, turning to Michael. A family party. Father Thomas clapped his hands. I'll bless this celebration. And I'll make the most beautiful cake of my life, said Catherine. And I'll handle the decorations, offered Michael. What about me? Asked Nathan. What can I do? You can be my escort, said Emily. Since I no longer have a groom, I'll need someone to dance with me. It would be an honor. They spent the rest of the afternoon making arrangements. Emily called the venue to explain the situation, and to her surprise, the owner found the story beautiful and offered to help with decorations. The band also agreed to play, saying they had never participated in a family reunion party before. That evening, when everything was set for the next day, they sat down to dinner together as a complete family for the first time. Nathan was nervous, unsure how to act. Relax, said Emily. No need for formalities here. It's just been 30 years since I've had a family dinner. Then it's time to start again, said Michael, serving the food. Over dinner, they talked about everything, future plans, memories of the past, and long-held dreams. Nathan shared that he'd always wanted to start his own business, and Michael offered to help him plan. You don't have to help me, Michael. It's not out of obligation. I want to. You're my brother-in-law now. Brother-in-law? Of course, you're Father Thomas's brother, and he's practically family. And you're Emily's father, who's my daughter. That makes you my brother-in-law. Nathan laughed. I never thought of it that way. That's what family is, said Margaret. A tangle of relationships that all comes down to love in the end. After dinner, Emily asked to speak with Nathan alone in the backyard. They sat on the swing where she used to play as a child. Nathan, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you regret faking your death? Nathan thought for a long moment. I don't regret protecting you all, but I do regret not finding another way to do it. What other way? I could have asked the family for help. I could have gone to the police. I could have tried negotiating with the loan sharks. And if they had hurt us, then I'd never forgive myself. You did what you thought was right at the time. You can't blame yourself for that. It's easy to say that now, but for 30 years I wondered every day if there was another way. Did you ever reach a conclusion? I did. I realize sometimes there's no perfect decision, only the one we can make with the information and emotions we have at the time. Emily thought that was very wise. And you? Nathan asked. Do you regret telling Father Thomas the truth today? No. If I hadn't, I'd have married a man who didn't really know me. How so? Ryan fell in love with the Emily he imagined. The perfect girl, no complications, no mysteries. But I have a complicated family, secrets, unresolved issues. If he can't handle that, then he doesn't truly love me. You're very mature for 25. Maybe I got that from you, or from Michael, or Catherine, or Margaret. You grew up surrounded by people who've been through hard things and learned from them. They rocked in silence, listening to the sounds of an Aspen night, crickets chirping, wind in the trees, distant cars on the main road. Emily? Yes? Can I give you some relationship advice? Of course. When you meet the next man, and you will, don't rush to tell him all your secrets, but don't hide who you are either. Let him get to know you gradually, and watch how he reacts to the complications in your life. What kind of reaction should I look for? Curiosity instead of judgment, a desire to understand, not just fix, acceptance, not tolerance. What's the difference between acceptance and tolerance? Tolerance is putting up with something that bothers you. Acceptance is understanding it's part of the person you love. Emily thought that made perfect sense. Nathan? Yes? I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad I'm alive too, to see the amazing woman you've become. They hugged for the second time in their lives. The first had been when Emily was a baby, something she didn't remember. The next day, the family gathering went exactly as Emily had planned. The hall was decorated with simple flowers, the band played cheerful music, and about 50 people showed up to celebrate. Some were close friends of the family, others were curious neighbors, and some were members of Father Thomas's church. But everyone was there to support Emily in her new journey. Emily gave a heartfelt speech about family, forgiveness, and second chances. She officially introduced Nathan as her biological father, and the crowd reacted with surprise, followed by admiration for the story of love and sacrifice. Father Thomas said a special prayer, thanking God for reunions and families that form in unexpected ways. Mrs. Wilson cut the cake, which Catherine had shaped like a heart, and raised a toast to the courage of telling the truth. The first dance was between Emily and Michael, as originally planned for the wedding. The second was with Nathan, who cried through the entire song. The third was with Father Thomas, who said it was his first time dancing in 40 years of priesthood. How do you feel? A friend asked Emily. Complete, she replied. For the first time in my life, I feel whole. Don't you miss having a husband? I miss having a partner, but I don't miss marrying the wrong person. What if you never find anyone? Emily looked around at her family. Michael talking business plans with Nathan, Catherine organizing leftover food to share with the neighbors, Father Thomas telling jokes to the children, Mrs. Wilson sitting in a chair watching everything with a satisfied smile. If I never find anyone, Emily said, I'll live very happily with the family I have. And in that moment, she truly believed it. 3 months after the celebration, Emily received a letter from Ryan. He apologized for how he had reacted and asked if she'd be willing to talk. Emily showed the letter to her family. What do you think I should do? It depends, said Michael. Do you still have feelings for him? I do, but they're not the same as before. How so? Before I loved him as if he were perfect. Now I know he has flaws, that he can disappoint me when it matters most. And has that changed how you feel? It's changed everything. I can love someone imperfect, but I can't trust someone who abandons me at the first sign of trouble. Then you already have your answer, Nathan said. What answer? You can talk to him if you want. You can even rebuild a friendship. But don't get back together expecting him to have changed. People only change when they truly want to. Emily decided to meet Ryan at a neutral cafe. He looked thinner, with dark circles under his eyes, visibly remorseful. Emily, I made a terrible mistake. You did. I was nervous, pressured by my mother, scared of the whole situation. I understand. You do? I do. But understanding isn't the same as forgiving, and forgiving isn't the same as forgetting. What does that mean? It means I forgive you for leaving me at the altar, but I won't forget that you did it, and I can't trust you as a life partner anymore. Emily, please, can't we try again? Ryan, answer me one thing. If something like this happened today, would you react differently? Ryan hesitated. I think so. Think or no? I know. Based on what? What's changed in you these past 3 months? Ryan had no answer. That's it, Emily said gently. You want me to believe you've changed, but you can't even explain how or why. So we have no chance. As a couple? No. As friends? Maybe, with time. Emily stood to leave. Emily? Yes? Have you met someone? No. And I'm not looking. I'm learning to be happy with myself and my family. Your complicated family, Ryan said with a slightly ironic tone. Emily stopped and turned around. My perfect family, she corrected. Complicated but perfect for me. And she walked away without looking back. 6 months after the party, Nathan had started a small gardening business with Michael's help. Emily had been promoted at work and was considering going to graduate school. Catherine had begun giving cooking lessons to the neighbors. Father Thomas visited the family every week for lunch. At 85, Margaret was still the matriarch, who held everyone together with her wisdom and straightforward remarks. Emily, she said one Sunday after lunch, you seem different. Different how? Lighter, more sure of yourself. It's because I realized something important. What? That I don't need a man to complete me. I'm already complete. And if a good man comes along, if he does, he'll be welcome, but as an addition to my life, not a necessity. Well said, my dear. You've truly grown up. That same Sunday, after everyone had left, Emily was helping Catherine wash the dishes when her mother asked, Sweetheart, do you regret anything? Like what? Telling the truth on the wedding day. Losing Ryan. Emily dried her hands and thought about the question. Mom, if I hadn't told the truth, I would have married a man who didn't really know me. We'd have a life built on an edited version of who I am. And that would be so bad. It would be a lie. And I don't want to build my life on lies, even comfortable ones. What if you never find someone who accepts the whole truth about you? Then I'll live an authentic life alone, which is better than a fake life with someone. Catherine hugged her daughter. I'm proud of you. Why? For having the courage to choose the truth, even when it's painful. 2 years after the wedding that never happened, Emily was in a bookstore when she bumped into a man carrying several books. Sorry, he said, bending down to pick up the ones that fell. No problem, Emily replied, kneeling to help. When their eyes met, she felt something different. It wasn't love at first sight, like it had been with Ryan. It was curiosity, interest, a desire to know him better. I'm David, he said, smiling. Emily. Nice to meet you, Emily. Do you come here often? I do. I love history books. What a coincidence. I'm a history teacher. They talked for a few minutes about books and realized they had similar tastes. David invited her for coffee and Emily accepted. Over coffee, she noticed how he listened to her stories, asked thoughtful questions, and reacted when she mentioned her complicated family. Complicated how? He asked with genuine curiosity, not judgment. Long story. Maybe I'll tell you another time. I'm curious, he said, smiling. Complicated families are the most interesting. Emily smiled back. Maybe he was worth getting to know. They began meeting regularly. David was patient, interested, respectful. When Emily finally shared her family's story, he listened carefully and then asked, Can I meet them? Are you sure? There are a lot of them, and they're pretty intense. I'm sure. I want to meet the people who helped shape who you are. The first Sunday lunch with David was a test. Nathan asked blunt questions about his intentions. Michael watched how he treated Emily. Catherine tested whether he'd eat the food without complaint. Father Thomas assessed his character. At 87, Margaret was the most direct. Young man, Will you abandon my granddaughter if she brings problems into your life? Mrs. Wilson, David replied calmly. Problems are part of life. What matters is how we face them together. Good answer. After lunch, Emily and David walked through the garden that Nathan had created at the house. So, she asked, what did you think of the complicated family? I think they're people who truly love each other. I didn't see anything complicated about that. Didn't you find it strange that I have two fathers? I thought it was beautiful. You're lucky to be loved by so many people. And what about Nathan faking his own death? I thought it was brave. I don't know if I'd have the courage to sacrifice myself like that for family. Emily stopped walking and looked at David. You're different from my ex-fiancé. How so? He saw problems where you see love. He saw complications where you see interesting stories. Maybe it's because I'm a history teacher. I'm used to complex narratives. Or maybe it's because you're a better person. David kissed her for the first time in that garden her biological father had made, in the house where she grew up with the father of her heart, surrounded by the family that loved her unconditionally. A year later, David proposed to Emily, but he didn't do it alone. He asked Michael for permission, sought Nathan's blessing, asked Catherine for advice, requested Father Thomas's protection, and asked Margaret for wisdom. Why do you want to marry Emily? Margaret asked. Because she makes me want to be a better person. Because I feel whole when I'm with her. And because I want to be part of this family that taught her what true love is. What if she brings more complications into your life? Then we'll face them together. What if her family interferes in your marriage? I hope they do. Families who care interfere. What if she uncovers more secrets about the past? Then we'll face that together too. Margaret smiled. You may marry my granddaughter. Emily and David's wedding took place at the same St. Mary's Church, where the first wedding had been cancelled. Father Thomas officiated the ceremony. Michael walked Emily down the aisle, followed by Nathan. Catherine was the maid of honor. Margaret, at 88 years old, was the one who presented the rings. During the ceremony, Emily looked at her family and smiled. Everyone was there. Her two fathers, her mother, her uncle priest, her grandmother, and now David, who had chosen to be part of that complicated and perfect family. When Father Thomas asked if there were any objections to the marriage, Emily looked at David and whispered, "Are you sure you want to be part of this crazy family?" "I'm sure," he answered loudly, making everyone laugh. "Then let's get married," she said just as loudly, and they did. At the reception after the ceremony, Emily danced first with David, then with Michael, then with Nathan. Father Thomas gave a speech about how God works in mysterious ways to bring families together. Margaret, whom everyone thought wouldn't live to 90, danced an entire song with David. "Take good care of my granddaughter," she told him. "I'll protect her with my life," David promised, "and let her take care of you too. Love is a two-way street." "I'll remember that." As the party was winding down, Emily found Nathan in the garden again. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Complete," she answered, "but in a different way than before." "How so?" "Before I felt complete, because I had a family who loved me. Now I feel complete, because I've found someone to build my own family with, without losing the one I already have." "It's the best feeling in the world," Nathan said. "How do you know?" "Because that's how I've felt since I came back to you all. Complete, but ready to build new bonds." They looked back at the party, where David was animatedly discussing some project with Michael, where Catherine was teaching Emily's mother-in-law how to make her famous chocolate cake, where Father Thomas was telling stories to the children present. "Nathan?" "Yes?" "Thank you." "Why?" "For giving me life, for sacrificing yourself to protect me, for coming back, for teaching me that true love sometimes demands great sacrifices." "Thank you," he said, "for giving me a second chance to be your father. You've always been my father, Nathan. I just took a while to realize it." They embraced once more, and Emily knew her story was complete. Not because she had gotten married, but because she had learned that family is about choice, that love is about acceptance, and that sometimes the best stories begin when we let go of the plans we thought we wanted. 5 years after the wedding, Emily and David had a daughter. The girl was born surrounded by grandparents, Michael and Catherine, who now had official grandchildren, Nathan, who could finally be a grandfather without hiding, Father Thomas, who would be the godfather, and Mrs. Margaret, at 93, who was still sharp enough to offer advice on raising children. "What should we name her?" David asked. "Hope," said Emily, "because she represents the hope that our family will keep growing with love." "Hope Johnson Williams," Michael said, moved. "Hope Johnson Williams," Nathan agreed. And so the girl who once had her wedding cancelled for telling the truth built a new family based on the very same truth that had almost left her unmarried. Because sometimes what seems like the end of the story is just the beginning of a much better one. The end. Now tell me, dear listener, what did you think of this story of love, family, and forgiveness? Do you think Emily made the right choice by telling the truth at the altar? And David, was he truly the right man for her? Share your honest thoughts in the comments. I love hearing what you think. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other touching stories like this one.